Hey everybody, it's your girl Michael. Thank you for joining us on our podcast, the Show Up and Show Out podcast. So today we're going to be getting right into it, talking about trust and forgiveness and all the things in terms of restoration. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. You take from it whatever wisdom and nuggets that you need to in your life. And with that being said, here we go.
You feel like a vacation. You feel like everything I've been wanting and waiting for. And every day I'm wanting more. Even though we had a minor slip-ups, we are never, ever, ever giving up. Got the modern Gina kind of love. The real shit that comes from above. And my friends ask me how I know that you are the one. I know you're the one. I know you're the one.
All right, you guys, here we are.
Yo.
Part 2 of the Show Up and Show Out podcast, where we
that's
talk
right.
about our story, the trial that almost took us out. So we're going to get right into it today. And let us apologize first, actually, because we recorded this podcast before. But during playback, we realized that the voice and volume was
There you
off.
go. Giving them all the
Hey,
goodies.
I'm just trying to be real of why you guys have had to wait longer than we wanted you to. But make no mistake, a lot of the times when you do something the second time,
Right.
it's even better.
True that.
So-
Facts.
All right, so getting right into it, last time we talked about all of the, how it happened, feelings, why, all of that kind of stuff. And this week, we're going to be talking about some of the hard stuff too. I guess it all is hard, right? But
Yeah.
rebuilding trust, forgiveness, and all of those types of things. So let's go. So rebuilding trust. So the way I look at this is, for me, rebuilding trust for me is completely different than what it was for you.
Yeah.
Because you literally had to rebuild trust in a completely different way
Right.
with regards to rebuilding it for me, having me to see
It wasn't
that.
really about me rebuilding.
Right. It
rebuilding
was
trust because-
rebuilding trust for us.
Yeah.
Basically.
It was about me rebuilding trust, but it was about the trust that you needed to figure out. In other words, I needed to do the right things in order for you to trust me.
Right.
So it was about rebuilding trust, but it was about rebuilding your trust in me again.
Correct.
So
Right. And the rebuilding trust for me was being able to allow you to do that,
yeah.
and not constantly feel like you were lying and taking us back to where we had just come from, which was extremely hard. So for me, I think the hardest part of that whole, and you guys, rebuilding trust, like, it's so easy to give trust to someone. Like, when you
Oh, it
first meet
definitely
someone,
is.
you trust them, right? Until they break it. And once they break it, it's so hard.
yeah.
It's so hard.
And there's levels of it too, I think, anyway, because as sometimes, when you're in love with somebody and you crazy about them or it's new and everything, sometimes you'll let some little things slide that you basically should not be letting slide. But
True.
because you let those little things slide without knowing it, as well as that other person who's doing it, they start developing a pattern.
Right.
So, you got to make sure that you watch that.
That's a good point.
So,
And I think too, what's hard about rebuilding trust is that going back to the feelings when there was no trust. So it's like
Right.
you go 5 steps forward, and then if anything happens that makes, especially for a woman, we carry all of those dabbling memories. So if anything comes up as a trigger, we go right back to how we felt when we were being lied to, and
Yes,
everything
y'all do. Oh my
everything
goodness.
is questioned. And that was the thing with me with our rebuilding trust period.
Yeah.
I kept going back to things and feelings I had when we
Yeah.
were going through the real chaotic part.
See, that was the hardest part for you, and for me on the opposite end of the person trying to rebuild the trust for you to believe in them again. for me, it was, again, doing the necessary things day in and day out, but also it was the repetitive hearing you constantly remind me of what I had done.
Oh my gosh, that was so hard.
Within itself,
that was rough. That was so rough.
That's hard, because you know in your heart exactly where you stand and what you want to do, and that you're committed to doing the right thing. But on the opposite end, that person doesn't believe you and see anything you said because of all your lies and deceiving and doing all this crazy stuff. So
that's a hard thing.
So for me, having to deal with that every day, you constantly and it's not really you reminding me. In my mind, it comes off like, okay, but why you keep reminding me?
But for me, it was, remember that I have this to get over, bruh. Remember, I have this to get over.
You wasn't reminding me. You was just basically letting me know, look, if you expecting this thing to just be swept under the rug, these are the things that constantly hunt me each day in and day out. And as a man, I just wasn't understanding that.
And you didn't want to hear it.
I always want, men, we're so built, we're taught to be so tough and not show emotions and how we feel. And so because of that, we think that everything's supposed to be swept under the rug.
Well, if it's swept under the rug, you don't have to deal with it, and that you don't have to show your vulnerability.
That too.
Right. But for me, it was like, it's one of those things where I was just trying to let you know, like, I have, like, if I'm coming to you with something that I don't trust you on, believe you me, I've thought about 50 million other things in my head.
Right.
And I remember telling you that one time, because you were like, I can't believe you keep coming to me with this. If I'm only coming to you with this, bruh.
Yeah.
That's one of like 80 million thoughts that run through my mind constantly on a daily basis.
And that alone, because I didn't want it to be over so fast, because I knew there was no way it was going to be over that fast. It takes time. Mm-hmm. It's just the thought process of thinking about how long that time is going to take for you to get over it, for one. And then two,
reliving it.
Like
every single time I would bring up
and
something, we would
constantly
relive
having to go through it.
Right.
But the arguments, that's what I was trying to think about. The arguments, because because I didn't want you to talk about it, it would create arguments.
Right.
But that's just what it is, man. You have to realize that you have to crawl before you walk.
And you have to allow that person whatever time it takes for them to truly get over it.
Right, because each individual person is different. So everybody's going to get over things. What you may get over faster, I may not be able to get over faster, and vice versa.
Right.
So you have to be very kind and gentle to the other person and put yourself in their shoes to kind of understand what they feel, even though you really can't understand it. But think about it. Ask yourself, how do you want to be treated? So
well, then too, you can just turn that bad boy around on yourself and say, if you had someone that was lying to you all, like pretty much 90% of the time, right? How would you feel? Like really, how would you be able to decipher what's true and what's not? You know?
Well, but as men, we don't think like that.
Look at that. Yeah,
we don't look at none of that. We don't, and it's not even just men. There's women that are probably like that, because you got women who have that man type of mentality.
True. Yeah, totally.
I mean, we're known as being dogs, but women can be dogs too.
Hey, women have been dogged so much that I think they've become dogs.
Yeah, it came. The way the world has, the way I see it through my eyes, that it has changed. It used to be men being very aggressive, but you also nowadays you have women who are very aggressive, and they'll go and even a married man. They just don't care.
And I think that point right there again is because when you have been hurt so much, you then are like, you know what, F it. I'm just gonna go ahead and go do what they're doing. Yeah. And you have a lot of women that have had that whole flip of the switch. Like, I'm not gonna keep doing what I'm supposed to do as a woman. I'm gonna go out here and do what they're doing, because they've been hurt. Yeah.
Which in turn doesn't really work out, because that can also push that person, the other person, the cheater, to go back out there and do something stupid and cheat again even more.
Well, do you really even have a real relationship at that point?
No, you don't. But I mean, it's regardless, at the end of the day, that's where it becomes so toxic. Yeah. Because you put more dramatic stuff into it.
Right.
Instead of taking that fuse and blowing it up and stopping that bomb basically from going out and just putting out the fire, you allow it to explode by doing more chaotic stuff.
Correct.
Going down that cycle, that path. So,
yeah.
Well, I mean, with that being said, how did you forgive? Like, how did you forgive me? And for you, what was it like seeing through your eyes me go through the process for you to be able to start forgiving? Because at that point, because you're not really building trust, you building trust, but the trust is a little bit more. The forgiving process starts first. You have more to step out on.
Yeah. Well, I think that for me, the forgiveness came in stages, right? Like initially, for me to even want to continue in the marriage, I had to forgive you, right? So that was the first stage of forgiveness is, okay, you know what? I forgive him enough to want to work on this. Right. However, I don't think that was a complete forgiveness because we were still working through all of the crap. And like we stated in our last episode, you were still acting crazy.
Acting a fool.
Okay. Wow. So there were stages. And so I think that first level of forgiveness was, okay, I'm going to forgive you. Mm-hmm. We're going to do this. And then all throughout the rebuilding process, I think I forgave you. I mean, hell, I think I forgave you like a ton. Every day.
No, ain't no, you did.
Every day I woke up.
You constantly kept forgiving me because if you weren't forgiving me time and time again, then you wouldn't have stayed in it so long.
Right. I think the forgiveness process is literally an everyday thing. I mean, and the scriptures say that, you're supposed to forgive 70 times 7 every day. Mm-hmm. So every day I would wake up forgiving you.
Right. Preach your sister. Go ahead.
And then I think, it got to a point when you were actually showing me that I could trust what you were saying to me.
Yeah.
That was another stage of forgiveness. I felt like more comfortable. Like, okay, I don't have to watch my back forgiveness. Right. Now I can be in a stage of calm forgiveness. Like, okay, I can trust him. I can trust him more. He's showing me things. And then I think that once we got through a lot of that chaotic time frame, the huge forgiveness came where I literally, at that point, I had surrendered. Heavenly Father was showing out for us. Yeah. And I really start to see a change in you. Like, it wasn't just you doing little small things, like you said, having your phone up instead of down, letting me go check, not even check your phone, but just saying, hey, go look at my phone and see blah, blah, blah.
It was everything.
But it was even more than those little small steps. I could actually see you, like your demeanor change.
I wasn't talking about it. I was actually being showing about action. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
You were
step
being
by
about
step,
it.
being patient.
Right.
Being gentle.
And being very transparent.
Right.
I feel like transparency in a relationship is the golden rule or the platinum rule, if you will, to honesty. Honesty is great. You want honesty, but honesty is if I ask you something, you tell me the truth. Right. You took it to transparency where it was, I'm going to tell you what happened without you having to ask me.
Right, exactly.
But
I also think too, what also entangled in that, and this is for men out there, you have to be willing to sit down with your significant other and go through that process. This is something I never thought that I and you probably don't remember this. I didn't think that I was going to ever go through. I sat down and let you ask me questions and answer them. And we did that on more than one occasion.
We did.
That was so freaking tough. Because even at that moment, you're rehashing everything, but you're fine-tuning the details a little bit even more.
Right.
You're revealing more. You're letting more go because you have to let everything go for one to basically start forgiving yourself. Now, that's where the forgiveness starts for me.
With you, yeah.
Because I have to be very vulnerable and let you in and tell you every single detail, knowing how painful it is going to be to hurt you.
For us both, yeah.
For us both.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'd rather you know all of my dirt.
Right.
Every single inch of my dirt, nuance of my dirt, from me and hear it from me and put it all out on the table to rebuild this trust as well. But it also helps me to forgive myself.
Yeah. Right.
Because I can let it go finally.
Right.
I can breathe. I don't have to sit there and feel like I'm hiding this and hiding that and looking over my shoulder and trying to figure out which lie or, how I'm going to do this. And it's just too much.
Yeah.
Way
and I
too
think
much.
too, what, you doing that and us having those multiple sessions of just truth and honesty and transparency, it was a controlled environment.
Right.
So we both could control it rather than something coming from left field and me all of a sudden like springing it on you and you being like, what the freak? Like, where'd that come from?
I mean, sometimes people can probably feel like they attacked because you may want to sit down in conversation. The way we did it was we didn't sit there and feel like, okay, all right, this is an open discussion. Let's sit down and talk. We were having a good time, and we just, as friends, having that friendship, we genuinely just got into the conversation and started talking.
And you know what? A lot of those talks, now that I'm really thinking about it, they came up because if y'all don't know, and you might not, you probably don't, we love watching shows together. And a lot of the times, those conversations would come up with us watching a freaking show.
Right.
And they would say something or do something in the show, and I would feel this nudge, and then he would feel it because I know we're very in sync. And when we're off, it's not as good. But when we're on, and we were in those moments of rebuilding and restoration, we were getting back to that place of being on. And he would know, like, oh, Lord, they just said that in the show. She's going to say something. Yeah. And literally, after the show would be over, I'd be like, babe, what about? And he'd be like, I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to ask that.
That's right.
But a lot of the times, it was actually brought on by some episode of a show. Yeah. And I think that was really good, though, because it came on not because of an act, right? Or me finding something. It just came genuinely out of the day.
Yep.
And because of that, you got to a point where you were so vulnerable and willing to let me in when those moments happened.
What did you say? Vulnerable? Okay, all right, it's gotta be.
Don't do it.
I'm trying to
get me back.
Look, I ain't trying to get
Don't
you back. I'm just
it.
saying. I was like, what'd you say?
But you allowed me those moments, and you weren't upset. You didn't get upset, And I think that key.
Takes time because in the
time.
beginning, I admit I was getting upset a lot because I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to be reminded of it. But it's the pain and the hurt. But you got to understand that I had to understand. I can say but I had to understand that my wife is hurting, bro. You have to walk through her pain with her,
right?
Because ultimately, you guys, the only way for you to heal together is to walk through the pain together.
Right.
So your pain, I had to walk with you through your pain as well as you had to walk with me through my pain.
Totally.
But your pain was way more severe on your end at the moment and mattered more. My pain was a whole nother level of its own hurting.
Totally.
That stood alone by itself that also was horrific.
Yeah.
But
totally.
It was most importantly to fix your pain. And then we could develop fixing my pain.
Right. And I remember, because I am an empath, I remember sometimes I didn't even want to ask you anything because I knew it was going to cause you pain. Right. And you would be like, what is it, babe? And I would say, I don't want to bring it up because, and you're like, nope, let's get through it. And those are the hand holding moments that you need in a relationship to truly rebuild it the way that it needs to be rebuilt.
So what was it that made you have faith in God even when you didn't really see the end?
Oh my gosh.
Of like, because you couldn't really tell or know the future of what's going to happen with us.
Like all this work, right?
But also with that being said, like, how did you have faith for me even when I wasn't in the right mind,
right?
Or looking to God for guidance, in the beginning. So
I think, okay, so that's a two-parter. Right. But I think for me, having faith in the unknown, isn't that what faith truly is?
It really is.
You don't know it's hope for things that are not seen. That's what faith is.
Right.
So I think for me, what got me through that moment of, okay, God, you said that if I stayed, you were going to fix it. There were moments where I really didn't see how it was going to happen. But what helped me in those moments was knowing that God has no limits.
Right.
There are no limitations on what he can do or who he can use to help a situation. And I thought back, and it might sound corny, but at the time I was doing
nothing you saying is corny. Don't feel like
I was
that.
doing a lot of sermon listening, scripture reading, gospel listening to song. I mean, I was listening to gospel songs.
Yeah, really were. You dove into
yes.
You dove into this
like ridiculous
and
like
Heavenly
not
Father
even ridiculous, but
no,
it was all
it's
day.
fine. You can say that. You can say that. No, there's nothing wrong with saying that. There's never a limit on how much knowledge you can get, or Holy Spirit you can feel. There's no limit.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
no.
But I was deep into
Yeah.
all of that because my mind, literally, I am a Enneagram 1, first of all. So I'm a perfectionist.
Yes, she
I'm
is.
very
Oh my
controlling.
God.
I'm a solution seeker.
Well,
so
yeah, controlling, but let's not get it twisted. She's not saying controlling like she control. It's a different type of
it's
control.
like wanting to control
for herself.
control
Not
the
control
outcome.
every situation or
Right.
control me.
It's controlling my
make sure
outcomes.
I put that out there to have my wife
Thank you,
back.
babe. Thank you, babe.
Go
But
ahead.
yeah, it's controlling my outcomes. And so for this, I had absolutely no control whatsoever,
Right.
which put me in a very uncomfortable space. And so I had to look back at, since I was doing all the scripture reading and listening to sermons and what have you, I looked at some of these people from the Bible, like, Noah, who here you are in the desert and you're told to build a ship. Well, how many people looked at him crazily and he was like, how in the world? Like, really?
Right.
Like, so there are other people that gave me examples of when God speaks, listen, don't ask questions, because if he said he's going to do something, he's going to do it. So in those moments of, Lord, I don't know how in the world, I would literally get through the sentence and be like, but you are God, you have no limits, you can do all things. And I just kept moving forward. That's something that I just did. I just kept moving forward.
See, for me, there really was no end, because of course I wasn't looking at an end, because I kept doing what I was doing.
Right.
So
Right.
for me, there really wasn't an end. But what I will say is the times that there were so many times that it got so stressful living the lies that I was living, that I remember in the beginning, I was the person that had I was the strong person as far as the faith.
Right.
We both
In the
had
beginning
faith,
of our relationship,
but
right.
but I was the one that had the strongest faith. So at that point, with me going through all the chaos and crying and having my moments where I would always be like, I want this to end. I wish this would stop. That was me pleading to God, even if it was those moments where I was crying in front of you, and I would say, I wish y'all, it would all, you guys would leave me alone. And you would think that I'm talking about you, like, what are you talking about? Ain't no guys, just, you know what I mean? But at those moments, seeing you have your prayer closet and how you dove into your scriptures and always constantly seeing you on your knees praying, you doing your Reiki and your essential oils, and there was like so much spiritual connection that you had. That alone kind of helped me to start opening my eyes and seeing things. So I basically I latched onto your faith,
right,
to help me to
see.
basically come out of things and to see and to move better and to realize a lot of things. And that's what kept me strong to believe that, you know what, Jevonne, you can really do what you need to do to save this marriage, bro.
Right.
It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of time. And at the
Right.
moment, I was scared as hell.
Yeah. And something else
You
that
know?
we had that was a connection when we really didn't have a connection were the crystals that I would give you.
Yeah.
And you would keep those in your pocket, you
Yeah.
know.
We did. We did. I
The
forgot all about
topaz
that.
and the
Oh my
citrine and
gosh.
all of that kind of stuff. Not topaz, but the citrine. And you would keep those in your pocket, the little actual rocks. And then I would get us bracelets. And I would tell you what the bracelets were for. And I would do Reiki over them. And you would literally wear them faithfully. So even though you were still not where you needed to be, we still had that connection.
Yeah.
And we both felt it. And so I think like your second part of your question of how did I have faith for the both of us, you know, I really think that me doing those things had me connected to you in a way that I could energetically feel a connection still.
Right.
And that helped me to be able to, when I was praying, I was not only praying for me, I was praying for you. And I would actually ask in those prayers for certain things. And you would sometimes come home, like I'm huge on signs, and God knows this. You would come home and be like, yeah, today I was feeling yada, 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 and I felt this. And I'm like, yes. Didn't even tell you that that's what I prayed for. But that's how I knew that those prayers were actually working for you.
Right.
And that those small changes were coming about, even though they were, you know, at a snail's pace sometimes. But that's how I literally had faith for the both of us. And I think that's why I was in my prayer closet. That's why I was listening to all those sermons constantly. It's because I wasn't just doing it for me. I was doing it for us.
Both of us, right.
So it was like double time,
right.
You know? I mean, that's all I did, you know, literally one sermon after the next. I mean, so yeah, that was the closest I think I have ever been to God.
At any point, like during that, you know, during the process and of dealing with it, how did you get through the negative thoughts and the triggers? Because I know there were constant things that were kept coming back, even when we were kind of like trying to climb that, you know, starting to begin to climb that hill, but you know, though there were still little things, and what ultimately
those triggers are
and what ultimately basically kept you moving forward, and what was the turning point?
So the triggers were hard for me.
And with the turning point, but basically there's another part of that also. I
you
think,
in these 2-part questions,
hey, look,
bro.
I'm just, you know, they're coming to me as they come, so I'm just hashing them bad boys out. Where also let me know where you experienced more good days than bad days, like when, you know.
When did that happen? Okay, so the triggers were huge for me. I think it's just because of my personality again.
And I didn't have triggers because again on
you were doing the dirt, so your triggers only came when I brought them janks out.
But in return, there are some, you know, there were things that you would do that.
Well, no, you do have one trigger.
Yeah.
That one trigger is that Dad blame find my iPhone sound, because that's definitely a trigger.
Yes,
because I use that bad boy so much.
To this day, I do not like that sound.
Yeah, that's
I swear it freaks me out when I hear it. Even with me not doing that now, I hear that tip. I'm like,
but you don't hear it from me though. It's like TV and stuff like that. You hear it from, I don't do it.
I'm gonna tell you, my whole mind freezes like, oh my gosh. And then I have to think and be like,
you're like, no, I'm doing
bro,
good.
You right here with your wife. What you doing, bro? You good? Chill, calm down.
But for me, I'm huge on triggers because I think that's just me being an empath. So like when we would go to certain places, or when I would see certain things or certain songs that would come up, they were triggers for me.
Right.
And you going through that used to hate that because you're like, just leave it alone. Why are you thinking like that? Blah, blah, blah. It's hard. It's hard for someone that is a feeling person. Right. So I think for me, I just had to, in that moment, and I talked to myself a lot, okay? And I would have to just pull myself off the ledge. You know, it came to a point where it's my choice. You know, you have to realize that it's your choice, the thoughts that you think. So if I allowed myself to get a trigger, I could either go down that rabbit hole of thinking about all the things that are aligned to the trigger, or I could say, stop it, Michael, and move on to something else. And that's what I started to do. When we started getting in a better place and those triggers would come, I literally would just say to myself, stop it. That is not what's happening right now. And I would put myself into something else. I would do something. I would cook, whatever I needed to do to stop thinking about whatever came after that trigger. Whereas before, when we were going through all the rough stuff, I would let that trigger just manifest itself and run wild.
Right.
So what was the other part of your question? Because you know.
Yeah, I know I was all over the place. It was.
Oh, the
but
good part.
You really kind of somewhat already answered that, because we pretty much already you pretty much explained. Heavenly Father is what kept you moving forward.
Totally.
You praying. I mean,
totally.
That's just
that was number
you
one.
Basically, what is the word? Yeah, I'm about to say immersed, not immersed.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
immersed.
I did immerse myself
you
in
immerse
that.
yourself
I totally
in it.
did.
That's
yeah.
exactly what I was about
Look
to say.
Look at you. Come on, babe.
I'm trying to, think of some words in there. I ain't, all smart like that, but I'm trying to act like I'm a little something.
You are.
But, yeah, that's basically
I
what you
immersed
did.
myself,
So
yeah.
I think that's what you did to help you move forward.
That was number one. But then the number two,
Mm-hmm.
the huge number two was, I for years had talked about mindset and how you what you think about, you bring about, all of that stuff.
Right.
And it was very easy for me to give that knowledge to other people and that direction for other people. But when it came to me, I still took the other road.
Right.
So it took me making up in my mind that, look, what you're saying is exactly right. So stop choosing to think negatively. Yeah. And it was mindset. So God, number one, and then having that mindset, which, honestly, I think, it's hard. It's hard to make yourself think something different. Yeah. It's hard to choose something different, especially something positive when you're sitting in negativity.
Right. But that's also where I have to play my part and help you to understand that those negative thoughts are past tense negative thoughts. They're not current negative thoughts.
Very true.
I.e. meaning that I need to continue all the things I did in the beginning to win you, to get you in my life. Hey, waking up or just coming to you saying, hey, babe, I think you're so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Which I tell you that all the time. I sit there and I stare at you,
But then taking it further from just saying you're beautiful to showing me that. You know what I mean? To being that transparent person to come and say whatever you needed to say, or allow me again when I had moments to talk to you, and you being there listening
and doing the right things. I mean, even if it was down and man, let me tell you guys something.
Here we go.
I understand we love our beautiful women. Okay? Sometimes when you're in a relationship and that person that you're with is everything to you, they're your best friend, and hey, I get it. Some men out here got, bigger sex drives than other men, and
not the sex drive.
And I'm just saying this, and I don't want to be getting too much off a topic or anything like that. But the reason I'm saying that is because I think it's also when I say you have to crawl before you walk, you have to realize who you were in the beginning and what you did to get that person. So you have to start becoming that person again, even if it's not exact, even if it's to the point of you reinventing yourself, because the small things to a woman matters. It's not always thinking that, oh, you're supposed to lay down with her. It ain't always about getting into bed with a woman. Sometimes you have to really put thought into it, especially when you're trying to heal that relationship. Me taking out the trash, or any man taking out the trash when you don't normally do that, that's the big thing. That's the little thing, without having to be asked or having to have your wife do it. Right. Or like me, I wash clothes. I'll do the dishes, dishwasher sometimes. I'll clean the bathroom. I don't have a problem
noticing those things that need to be done. Because truth be told, when you're going through a rebuilding of a marriage because of betrayal, sex is the last thing on that other person's mind that has been cheated on.
Definitely, and that's that was the whole premise of me saying what I said. Yeah. Because a lot of us men think that you also have to realize that it ain't about sex, bro. You cheated. You did what you did. So you need to pump your brakes, and you need to make sure that you're very vulnerable and understanding to that woman's feelings emotionally, and especially physically, because the thought of what you did is still going to reflect in the back of her mind. So you need to give her that time, no matter how long it takes. Yep. If you truly love this woman, trust me, in the end, the waiting is worth it.
It is, because those thoughts on that person who has been cheated on, those thoughts in terms of like a sexual manner, they are nothing that is conducive to the act. And I'll just say it that way since this is a clean show.
Right.
You're thinking about, did he do this with somebody else?
Exactly.
Did he do that? I mean, those are the thoughts that come into your head.
Yep.
So rebuilding the romance, rebuilding you seeing that woman and what does she need from me?
And
that is what you need to be focused on.
And that's what I mean when I say the little things. It
Correct.
ain't about touching her. It's about making her feel good inside.
Yes.
It don't have to be a physical touch. There's a lot of different emotions out there other than physical touch.
A lot of words.
Come on, bro.
Of,
like, open your mind.
Language.
Like,
yep, the love language.
If you don't understand how to woo your woman, then why are you with her? What did you don't remember how and everything you did to get her in the beginning? Like, what the heck is going on? You need to tighten up. Real talk.
Right.
You seriously need to tighten up. But with that being said, I mean, I didn't want to get too far off the topic and everything, but I think that was a very important point to put out there and everything.
I think it was very important. And I think also, here's a question I have for you. And I think since we're trying to make sure that we stay on task, y'all, and not keep you too long. Right. But here is the question for you, and I'll let you go first, and I'll answer. Here's something that I think we all should ask ourselves when we're with other people, or if we've done something wrong to that person. You just spoke about taking your time, going slow, giving that person the opportunity to heal in the way that they need to heal. Would you marry yourself? The way you are, would you be with that person? So meaning you being in that cheating mindset. If you were to ask yourself in that moment, would I be with me? What would the answer have been?
With doing the stuff that I
Heck
did?
Yeah. It would be a what?
I'm going to be real talk. Hell
exactly.
No. I ain't going to even
Exactly.
front. Oh, yeah, babe. I would be.
No, you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
So,
I wouldn't.
I think sometimes men or whoever it is that has betrayed their spouse, they need to look at that question and say, me right now doing the dirt that I've done or am doing, would I be with me at where I am right now? Right. And if you're really real with yourself, you would say no.
Exactly.
Because you wouldn't trust the person. You wouldn't give them the time of day. You wouldn't, wouldn't do those things because of how you are.
For sure.
And I think maybe that is a better question to ask when you're going through something like this, because it'll be easier for you to understand how that other person is looking at you right now. Yeah. How they're looking at you walking through that very hard space. And maybe just be a little bit easier for you to do as you said. Right. Rein it back and take time and be vulnerable and communicate.
Communication is the most important part of it.
Most important.
You can't if you do not talk to each other, you cannot express those emotions. You can't tell her how you feel and why you did the stupid stuff you did. And you can't sit there and listen to how she felt and why she felt the way she felt from the things you did. You have to communicate, as hard as it may seem and as hard as it's going to be, because it's going to be hard. Every emotional part of talking about it. But at the end of the day, you can and you will get through it if you truly love each other and believe in each other. That's the most important thing. Ain't nothing else to talk, and you'll know one way or the other whether you should work it out or you shouldn't work it out.
Definitely.
Even through the communication itself.
Yeah.
You don't have to sit there and raise your voice over top of one another to talk, to have a civil conversation. And then, if you feel like you about to get heated, then, act like you in a boxing ring, let that bell ring and tell the significant other, look, I need a moment to breathe. Yep. I can't go no more talking about this, and walk away. That way, y'all can be at peace and understand that, hey, at this moment, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to disagree, because that's fine. But long as you're not bickering and yelling and letting the kids hear it, because all of that stuff is traumatizing to yourself, but as well as it to the others that are around you, your kids. Even if you take that emotional distraught with you to work, it's something you don't want to do. So really, you know, if you're about fixing that relationship, just do what you need to do to make sure it works. And men, please, for the love of God, bro, just stop sitting there trying to be so daggone freaking tough. Let it go.
Right.
Let it go. Talk to a homeboy. If you know somebody, a friend who's been through it, talk to him.
That's been through it and came out of it.
Then it came out of it. Talk to him.
Yeah.
If one is your homeboys, yo man, like real talk. What did you do to get through it? Because I really, really want to make this work. Mm-hmm. If you don't, then you shouldn't be in it. Period. The relationship, marriage,
if you're not
or
willing to go through all of the stages.
Exactly.
There's so many stages to rebuilding a marriage from betrayal and that whole trust thing and all of that.
And everybody's path to rebuilding is different. So don't think that, you know, we can only tell you what we've been through.
Right.
And you may have some similarities. We don't expect everything to be exact or close to it. I mean, it's more of a relation. You can relate.
Right.
That's and just that, because everybody's story is different.
That's so true. And then also a really big point to that is both people have to be willing to be in it.
Right.
And to go through it together.
Right.
If at any point, I mean, you could be willing at first, and then at some point, you know, you don't want to work for it. Like I said, the stages there are a lot of them, and they are very, very, very hard. Right. Each stage is hard. It can be hard. And so if you're not able to do that, then you still, like you said, communicate. Communication throughout the whole process is key. Right. But both people need to be willing, I mean, to even think about restoring something like, you know, betrayal and trust in a marriage. So, yeah.
Well, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to get up out of here. And we hope that you get a lot of important details and information. We hope that a lot of things we said resonated within your hearts and your spirits.
Yes.
I want everyone to know, men or women, whoever it may be, the cheater. I'm speaking specifically to the person who's doing the wrong. Get your act right. Get some of that act right. Yep. And do what you need to do and walk that walk, meaning crawl before you walk. It's going to be hard, but I believe in you. And the reason I believe in you is because I believe in myself. And I know the struggles that I've gone through. If you love this woman in any other way, if you love this man and you guys really want it to work, then do it. Yeah. Go through the pain. Go through the tears. Do whatever you need to go through, because trust me, on the other side, the grass really is greener. Yeah. In a beautiful relationship. Yes, it is. Trust me, it really is.
And going through the trenches with one another. Right. And seeing yourself come out. Together. Right. Will bring you way closer together than you ever would have been. And you have a repaired and restored relationship.
So again, whoever the cheater is, like, accept your responsibility as far as your actions of what you've done. And man up or woman up, whomever it may be, and be honest and transparent to yourself and to the other person that you're with, and make sure that you do the right thing. If you're going to be with them, be with them. If you're not going to be with them, don't be with them. But don't allow them to keep going through it, making them feel like you're going to be with them and believing that they feel that it's going to be some hope, and it's not. Because if it's not, just let them know. Right. Don't do that, because you wouldn't want that done to yourself. So at the end of the day, if you don't care, have a heart. Right. You may not care about them, but care about yourself enough to not destroy it, because you're also destroying yourself. And there's a pattern that you need to break. Yes. Be that person to break that pattern, that chain, whatever it is. Get the help you need. Do it. Yep. And that's all I'm going to say.
That was amazing.
I'm not going to say no more, because I know I can get carried on. So it's straight up. Because sometimes I get in my moments and I get a little deep. But that was
good. That was so good. So thank you for sharing that. And I think that it's so important for men to hear other men talk about this, number one. But it's also extremely important for women to hear a man talk about betrayal and his feelings, and you coming out of it, and what your your side is, because
Right.
we don't really get that. So thank you
Right.
for being, transparent, babe.
Well, I'm just being open and honest because I know the dirt and the stupid stuff I did.
I
And I'm
know.
going to keep telling you guys out there, I was stupid. I was so freaking, oh my gosh, bro.
But with that, because we're not going to have you sit here and just dog yourself out constantly.
No. I'm not. Yeah, it's
All
not
right.
to me. It's not dogging myself out. It's not dogging myself out because I'm very confident in where I'm at right now as a man.
True.
I know
True.
that I'm good. I know that I love you, and there ain't no other woman out there. Period for me on this earth.
Thank you.
That's a done deal. Period. So you are my one and only. So I can take it.
I got you.
I can take any attack from anybody, because at the end of the day, the most important person on this earth to me is you. So as long as you have forgiven me, no one else and nothing they say phases me or matters. And that's the joy in loving you every day and all day. So,
And with that, because that is freaking amazing,
yep.
thank you for joining us on this episode. We hope that whatever needed to hit you, resonate with you, wake you up, whatever, it has done that. And we will talk to you on our next episode of the Show Up and Show Out podcast.
I got issues.
We are out, guys. Talk to you later.
Deuces.
Love it gleams like diamonds, they see us shining. Hashtag couple goals, catch us on the gram, we hopping islands. Don't care what the rest say, they don't know how you loving me. They don't know how I love so deep. Thinking with this energy, thinking with this chemistry.
Thanks for hanging out with us and allowing us to share our thoughts with you. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found value in the topic so you can take some nuggets of wisdom into your own life and show up a little more and allow God the opportunity to show out for you.
If you like what you heard, please click that subscribe button so you'll be notified of future episodes, and we invite you to leave a review if our podcast resonated with you. Let us know that you too are ready to show up in your life. Thanks, and until next time,
We out.